A groundbreaking agreement between Israel and Hamas has the potential to change the course of a devastating conflict, but the details leave many questions unanswered. Israel and Hamas have negotiated a significant deal involving the release of Israeli hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners, marking a potential turning point after 2 years of war in Gaza. President Trump, who played a key role in brokering this deal, announced on social media that both parties had agreed to the initial phase of his peace plan, which includes Israel's withdrawal of troops to a mutually agreed boundary. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed his conversation with Trump and planned to bring the agreement before his government for approval. Hamas publicly stated that this deal could bring an end to the Gaza conflict and Israel's military presence in the region. The group urged Trump and international actors to ensure Israel fully honors the agreement's terms. Qatar, involved as a negotiator along with Hamas, suggested the deal would permit humanitarian aid to enter Gaza, a territory suffering from severe crises. However, the exact terms regarding the specifics of the hostage exchange and the conditions of Israel's troop withdrawals remain vague. Israel's initial announcements did not explicitly confirm a pullback of forces, and Netanyahu emphasized only that all Israeli hostages would be returned without providing further details. The conflict began in October 2023 when Hamas launched an attack on Israel, killing roughly 1,200 people and capturing approximately 250 hostages. Since then, the Israeli military has killed over 67,000 Palestinians, including both civilians and militants, and severely damaged Gaza's infrastructure. In September, President Trump introduced a comprehensive 20-point peace plan designed to halt the war and secure the hostages' release. The plan proposes exchanging Israeli hostages for 250 Palestinians serving life sentences and 1,700 Gazans detained during the conflict. An insider familiar with the agreement, speaking anonymously, revealed that all living hostages, estimated at around 20, are expected to be freed simultaneously, possibly as soon as Sunday. The remains of up to 28 deceased hostages would be returned in phases, acknowledging the logistical challenges. Yet the question remains, will this deal actually end the fighting? Hamas has openly dismissed Netanyahu's demand for disarmament, and no formal reference to Hamas's weapons appeared in communications from Israel, Qatar, the U.S., or Hamas. What else is important to know? Hope in Gaza. The announcement sparked a mix of relief and sorrow among Palestinians. Montasser Bacha, an English teacher and displaced resident from Khan Yunis, shared feelings of joy for the war's end and heartbreak for our losses. Across Gaza, people remained tuned in anxiously, waiting to hear when the ceasefire might take effect. Peace plan challenges. Trump's ambitious 20-point peace proposal contains provisions Hamas previously opposed, foreshadowing potential obstacles ahead. Trump's ultimatum. On Friday, Trump warned Hamas that failure to agree by Sunday could result in more deaths among their fighters. Hamas indicated readiness to free all hostages but wanted to negotiate terms further. Trump expressed optimism, sensing that Hamas might be ready for enduring peace, and called for a halt to Israeli bombings. Pressure on Israel. Israel's controversial September 9th strike targeting Hamas leaders in Qatar upset regional officials and Washington, but also galvanized Trump to compel Netanyahu toward a peace framework. How did stalled negotiations suddenly advance? As the Gaza conflict neared its third year, negotiations mediated by Egypt, Qatar, and the U.S. accelerated. Despite no direct talks between Israel and Hamas, pressure from these mediators fostered the breakthrough. A critical turning point was Israel's attack within Qatar on September 9th, where Hamas negotiators were stationed. Though the strike didn't kill the negotiators, it enraged Middle Eastern leaders and created a diplomatic crisis. Qatar's prime minister accused Israel of undermining peace efforts, complicating Trump's position since Qatar is a close U.S. ally hosting an American military base. Trump condemned the strike for jeopardizing U.S. interests and ultimately used the diplomatic fallout to pressure Netanyahu into backing a ceasefire framework. At the UN General Assembly later that month, Trump and his envoy convened Arab and Muslim leaders to outline their peace plan. This diplomatic initiative coincided with a UN conference recognizing Palestinian statehood, emphasizing the global push towards resolving the conflict. Netanyahu, increasingly isolated on the international stage, found it necessary to align with Trump's strategy. Trump's public unveiling of his 20-point plan at the White House on September 29 included an apology from Netanyahu to Qatar's leader for the earlier strike. Trump's firm pressure on Hamas followed, culminating in their agreement to free hostages pending negotiation. Cooperation from Netanyahu to the White House to pursue peace was confirmed. High-level mediators, including Jared Kushner and Qatar's prime minister, joined talks in Egypt to finalize the plan's initial phase, an exchange of prisoners and Israeli troop repositioning in Gaza. Trump emphasized a shared desire for resolution, even from Hamas. Trump's reaction to the deal, shortly after the announcement, Trump called the agreement historic and proclaiming it would bring peace to the Middle East. Yet in a Fox News interview with Sean Hannity, he discussed few details about the deal's complex components, focusing more on his domestic policies around tariffs and security in U.S. cities. Trump envisioned reconstruing Gaza with a Council of Peace and promised U.S. efforts to rebuild the territory, although he did not clarify how this group would function. What is in Trump's 20-point peace plan? Trump's plan calls for immediate cessation of hostilities and release of all hostages, living and deceased, in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. An Israeli military withdrawal from Gaza to a pre-agreed line. Entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza. Demilitarization of Hamas and their exclusion from Gaza governance. Replacement of Hamas's governance by a neutral, technocratic Palestinian committee overseen by a board of peace. Chaired by Trump, with former British Prime Minister Tony Blair playing a leadership role. Creation of Gaza as a terror-free zone, focused on redevelopment and investment. Palestinian Authority reform and assumption of Gaza governance responsibilities once security is ensured. Regional and international involvement to oversee disarmament and maintain stability, including a prospective international stabilization force to train new Palestinian police with coordination from Egypt, Jordan, and Israel. Assurance that Israel will neither occupy nor annex Gaza, with redeployment linked to demilitarization progress. The plan stops short of promising immediate Palestinian statehood, suggesting this may become possible only after reforms and redevelopment create the right conditions. Details about the hostages and their families. Approximately 20 hostages remain alive in Gaza, with about 25 deceased captives remains held. Some hostages have previously been freed in prisoner exchanges and military operations. The conditions of the captives, often shown in distressing videos, have raised concern for their survival. The timing for Hamas's return of deceased hostages is expected to be slower due to the logistics involved. What does Hamas receive? Once hostages are released, Israel would free 250 prisoners serving life sentences and another 1,700 Gazans detained after the war's outbreak. The release of deceased remains is planned on a ratio of 15 deceased Gazans for each Israeli body returned. Timing details remain vague. Reactions and ongoing uncertainties. Netanyahu hailed the agreement as a major diplomatic and moral victory, thanking Trump for his leadership. The families of hostages expressed a mix of relief and worry, urging swift government approval to avoid jeopardizing captive safety. Iran pledged support for Palestinian resistance groups amid the talks, highlighting the broader geopolitical stakes. Israeli President Isaac Herzog echoed nationwide solidarity with hostages and their families. Despite the optimism, the lingering uncertainties over Hamas's disarmament, the enforcement of troop withdrawals, and the governance of Gaza suggest that while this deal is historic, it may not mark the definitive end of the conflict. So, the big question remains, will this agreement genuinely usher in lasting peace? Or is it just another temporary truce in a complex, decades-old conflict? What do you think? Can true resolution be achieved through such agreements? Or are deeper changes needed? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below.